Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
Your college performance does not relate to the National Football League. It never does.
They played side by side with each other, and he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. That's an issue. That's a major issue.
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers.
Ever got to Texas?
It wasn't that he wasn't as good as Quinn Ewers. It was Quinn Ewers' program, which Steve Sarkisian made very clear the entirety of the time that Arch Manning was in Austin. So for you to argue that because Ewers is a seventh-round pick, Arch Manning is not that good and not deserving of being first overall is asinine. It is wrong. It is incorrect.
He's going to be number one overall. My whole thing was I'm buying
doing your thing now when you double down on a tape
no, I'm not doing that. The best quarterback prospect to ever hit college football can't play
He's
over
not,
a seventh-round pick
were two
who didn't even play good.
Quarterback recruits in the history of the sport.
Quinn Ewers couldn't even play at Ohio State. He couldn't even play at Ohio State.
Quinn Ewers. Go look it up.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune in to Game Time Decisions weekdays on SportsGrid.
Good morning. Welcome to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish. We've got a Game 7 coming in the Western Conference in the NBA. We'll have a full recap of what happened last night as the Denver Nuggets are pushing Oklahoma City to 7. Meanwhile, how about the leaderboard at the PGA Championship? Expect the unexpected, at least through a day and a quarter here. Someone who's never led before after round one of the PGA Championship is still currently in the lead here in day 2. Sam McQuillan will join us from Legal Sports Report. Danny Burke will provide some insights on Major League Baseball. And of course, we will cover the NBA as well with Carlan Gay of Sporting News. So let's get started here on this Friday edition of the show and begin with a bit of a surprise. A company that you may be familiar with in the daily fantasy landscape is now relaunching in the state of New York after pulling out after being fined. Underdog is back once again. They did withdraw their DFS contest from New York back in March and essentially left the state. But with all these prediction markets coming back, it just seems natural that everybody wants a piece of the pie. Now, Underdog, of course, is not a sports wagering company, but they do provide different options on player props, combination props as well, but they're back now in New York, and certainly I would imagine all of the daily fantasy operators and prediction market companies are going to try and stay alive as long as they can. Meanwhile, at the PGA Championship, what a huge surprise. The first player ever from Venezuela is leading after round one and actually still leading here going into round two. Jonathan Vegas, who is 6 under par, he's 25-1 currently to win, is still in the lead as we speak here on day 2 of the PGA Championship. Also, Max Homa is 6 under par, along with one other player, Ryan Gerard. So those are the 3 that are currently 6 under par. Aaron Ray is 5 under, Luke Donald 4 under. And if you're wondering, hey, where are all the big names? Where's Scotty Scheffler? Where's Xander Schauffele? Where's Bryson DeChambeau? Rory McIlroy? Not at the top right now as far as the leaderboard is concerned. To say that this has been a huge surprise at Quail Hollow would be an understatement after day 1. And, of course, they are currently playing right now there for round 2. All right, another big upset in the NBA last night. The odds makers made Oklahoma City a favorite. Why? I'm not really sure, because the Denver Nuggets just keep winning their home games. They did it again yesterday in Game 6. 119-107 officially. We're headed to a Game 7 coming up on Sunday. Nikola Jokic, 29 points, 14 rebounds, and 8 assists. Jalen Williams was just 3 for 16 shooting. One of the big reasons why Oklahoma City may not have won. Jamal Murray, after the game, talked about a back against the wall moment for the Nuggets, but said he prefers to be in a different situation.
How much do you enjoy these back against the wall type of games? You've played well in them.
I'd rather be up. I don't know. I mean, we've had our fair share. I think it just adds to the character that we build and experience. Chemistry, the trust, another big word. I just think, with that being said, I think we can do a lot better job of being the first to throw the punches and just be up.
Just how happy were you for Julian Strother to have that moment?
Super happy, man, because we all know what he's capable of. He just kind of needs to see the floor and get his rhythm, get some time in, not foul and stuff like that. But I mean, you can see how he can impact the game real quick in a high pressure moment. So it was just really good to see him catch that rhythm, show that emotion, and get everybody going. I really felt like he, even when they kind of came back or had a run, like his energy really set the tone for us. Everybody kind of realized what was going on, and we were able to just build off that kind of energy. The crowd got into it and everything like that. So it was just, I think it was just a snowball effect, and we all played better after that, to be honest.
And Game 7 will be, of course, in Oklahoma City. They're a big favorite going into Game 7, as they have been in all of their home games. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander last night knows they're headed to Game 7. Not all that disappointed with Game 6.
It felt pretty good. It felt like we had the right intentions. Now, I could have a better answer for you after watching the film. Just it's hard being out there and like trying to judge force while you're in the middle of a pick and roll. But yeah, I feel like we had the right intention. Like I said, it was more so like defensively we had lapses to start the game for sure. Like I know on one of the baseline out of bounds, I was guarding the corner and Brown just cut behind me for a dunk. Like things like that can't happen. And that tone was kind of set early. So just making sure that we control what we can control to start the game. Next game will be big for us.
Yeah, obviously that's a high-level game on the road right there. They came ready to play, and they came out swinging, throwing punches, and I feel like we did a good job of handling that first punch and then responding. And it was really a game of runs back and forth. But we have to figure out how to sustain that better throughout the game. We can't let them go on big runs, energy, momentum plays, and things like that. I think they're a really good team and they make really good plays, but I feel like there were some that we left out there. Places I could definitely be better, where we could clean up, make things tougher on them. You can't give a good team easy looks.
In the Stanley Cup playoffs, Carolina Panthers heavily favored, of course, against the Washington Capitals. That series did come to an end last night. Hurricanes beat the Caps 3-1. They win the series in 5 games. The Capitals, of course, won the Stanley Cup back in 2018. That was with Alex Ovechkin. After 20 years, it would appear Ovechkin may play another season. That still remains to be seen. But after the game, the head coach of the Caps on the going out interview basically said they went out on a high note.
I'll have plenty of time to dissect what went on through the 5 games. I think the main takeaways are this: is Carolina is one heck of an opponent, and so all the things that we're going to talk about of shortcomings that we had, so whether that be special teams, 5-on-5, scoring, depth scoring, we can break it all down. The first part you have to look at is not the lack of that from the Washington Capitals, is how the Carolina Hurricanes did that to the Washington Capitals. That's where my head goes. So guys that didn't produce or didn't do this or XYZ, penalty kill, go down the list, they did a real good job, and the games were tight, and you get a bounce one way, flip one of those games, maybe it's a little bit different, but they over the length of the 5 games of the series, they showed the quality of team that they are.
Dallas thought they were ending their 7-game series with Winnipeg last night. Didn't go as planned. Jets win 4-0. They make the series 3-2. Winnipeg's been really good at home, and they showed it again last night. Most think Dallas eventually will win the series and then take on Edmonton, but Still remains to be seen as that series goes on. Hottest team in Major League Baseball going into the weekend, which is rivalry weekend, by the way, in Major League Baseball, has to be the Minnesota Twins. They beat the Orioles yesterday. They've now won 11 games in a row. That's the high for anybody this season. By the way, in the game, Carlos Correa and Byron Buxton collided on a pop fly. Hopefully they're okay and can play this weekend. Bruce Bochy now managing the Texas Rangers. Of course, won a World Series with them a couple years ago. He passed Sparky Anderson for 6th on Major League Baseball's all-time win list for managers. He got his 2,195th career win. By the way, Jacob deGrom pitched in this. Awesome. He threw 8 innings pitched, no earned runs, and 7 strikeouts in the game as the Rangers beat the Astros. It was a great matchup. Hunter Brown pitched well also. Meanwhile, late last night, you may have missed this one, as I did, sleeping. Shohei Ohtani, late last night, hit only 2 home runs last night, Frank, and only 6 runs driven. And 19-2 win. The Dodgers beat the A's. Guess who leads Major League Baseball in home runs? Tied for the lead. That would be Shohei Ohtani. All right, we'll take a quick time out here on the show. When we come back next, our friend Carlan Gay joins us from Sporting News. We'll break down what happened last night between Denver and Oklahoma City. We got another game to go. But a lot of the focus in the NBA tonight is going to be the Celtics and Knicks. And finally, the Knicks are a favorite against the Celtics in this series. We'll break it down next.
Vegas knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career. Made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the Manning.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that ring. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple of
18.5-point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Let's go through the NBA action tonight and recap last night's games with Carlan Gay, who's covering it for Sporting News. He's on top of it here. We'll see if we can get a prediction or two before we get out of here as well. Carlan, great to have you back and great to see you here on NewsWire. I mean, you know, the odds makers last night, Carlan, made Oklahoma City a favorite again. They keep doing this, and they keep losing to the Denver Nuggets in Denver. So congrats to Denver, but I guess I don't mean to be cynical here, but I do have to ask the question, does it even matter? Does Denver hold any shot whatsoever to go to Oklahoma City and win? I know they've picked off a road game every now and then, but this just, to me, just reeks of this typical NBA series where the home teams win and the road teams win, and then it's best to have that best record in the NBA and host a Game 7. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, there's two trains of thoughts here. There's what you just laid out. Home team kind of takes care of home court. Series goes chalk across the board, and the higher seed moves on. The second thought is Oklahoma City had an opportunity to put their foot on the throat of the Denver Game 6, let them off the hook, and gave them life. And now the Denver Nuggets, a more experienced team who have championship experience, have won championships, have the best player on the planet playing on their team, and a guy who turns it up in playoff form in Jamal Murray, now going to have multiple days rest after having to deal with an illness going into Game 6, playing the way that he did in a Game 7, one-game scenario, winner take all. You don't want to mess around with that. So it really depends on what side of the balance you fall on. And if you want more ammunition to kind of lean Denver's way, they've been in 7 Game 7s. This Denver Nuggets team, this core, when you're talking about Jokic, Murray, Porter, who played poorly in Game 6, could bounce back in Game 7, even Christian Braun. This is going to be their 7th Game 7. They're 4-2 in Game 7 so far. And they've played in this is going to be their 2nd Game 7 in this playoffs alone. And the only other team to do that in the first 2 rounds previous to this, where playing the Game 7 in the first 2 rounds, was the Denver Nuggets in 2020. Before that, it was the Denver Nuggets in 2019. So this is a Denver Nuggets team that knows how to get to Game 7s and knows what it takes and what's going to happen in a Game 7. Nothing's going to shock them. On the other hand, Oklahoma City, we've always had questions about this team, right? All season long has been, do they have enough experience when it comes to these moments to break through and eventually win the NBA title? We're going to find out what, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is made of. He's going to win the MVP in the regular season. That's great.
Right.
Now it's time to perform in the postseason. We're going to find out what the good Jalen Williams has to offer. He has played poorly through 6 games. He has a chance to erase all that in one game in a Game 7. So everything on the line, home crowd advantage may be a factor. But if it was me, Craig, I'm going to lead the Nuggets. I think the Nuggets have an opportunity to go in there and shock the world.
Wow, plus 7.5. That would be the updated point spread. I would also say that we've seen this also in sports before. Buffalo Bills-ish lately. It kind of feels like Oklahoma City needs to win this game. I don't care what happens the rest of the season, but they need to win this game so that the questions next year aren't about them not winning. And the Bucks went through this for a bit. Like this kind of has to be a win for them to have a successful season, I think, regardless. Great regular season. You get to the West Finals. I mean, you never know. Something can happen and you could lose, but they should not be losing to Denver at home in Game 7. So I agree with you there. By the way, Oklahoma City to win the West, still heavy favorites, minus 155. Minnesota is just waiting, so we'll see what kind of opportunity they bring in the next round. They're plus 220. Okay, so now let's move on to the Eastern Conference, where we finally see the Knicks as a favorite, and they're at home. They should be without Jason Tatum. The Celtics, Carlan, they are just a scary team, man. Like, they've been down this road so many times, down in series, down players for whatever reason. Paul Pierce in the past, when he was with the Celtics, is he going to play? Is he not? Tatum is now out. I don't know what it is about this franchise, but it seems like they play their best when their back is against the wall. I hate to use that narrative. Let's look at the odds. Knicks minus 2.5 tonight, total of 210. I don't think the spread's going to come into play. I doubt it. But do the Knicks close it out tonight, or are we literally headed to a Game 7 back in Boston?
It's going to be a fun ride tonight at the Garden. The Garden is going to be absolutely charged up. One of the things that I think I would look for in this matchup is looking at what happens in that first quarter, because I do think that the New York Knicks are going to score in bunches coming out of the first quarter. Their hairs are going to be on fire. They know they dropped the ball in Game 5. They had an opportunity to kind of not only win that game, put the Celtics out, but get the necessary rest before the start of the next series. And now they're kind of in that must-win scenario, even being up in the series, right? Up 3-2. It's rare that a team up in the series has a must-win game, and this is it for the New York Knicks. I expect them to come out strong in that first quarter, so I would take the over and whatever the first quarter total is. Then after that, there's going to be some nerves. Things will slow down a little bit, and I think we'll have a good basketball game. One thing that I do think will favor the Boston Celtics is that they're a team that is going to come out and they're going to shoot a lot of three-pointers. And as you know, the variance with threes has been the story of the series. When Boston's made the threes, they've won the game. If they don't, they lose the game. They went to Madison Square Garden in Game 3 and absolutely lit them up. I feel a similar scenario here tonight. I do think the Knicks lead in front, and then I think Boston finds their range from three-point range, and we're headed to Game 7 on Monday night, Craig. I really do believe that.
That would be insane if that was the case. But this is what Boston did to Miami, and they seem to do to everybody else. When you think that they're out, they just jump back in. Let's look at the point props real quick. I don't know if you have any opinion on these, but I'll just show them to you, and you'll tell me as we wrap it up. Brunson's total has to be super high at this point. FanDuel's got to set this as high as they can because he's the closer. Karl Anthony Towns is 20. OG Anunoby's 14. Jaylen Brown's props have risen from about 21 to 25 with the Tatum injury. Then you have Derek White at 20. He's gone up a bit, couple of points. Pritchard is basically where he was last. Anybody in particular you like over under this?
Yeah, the two guards there stick out to me on either side. Jaylen there. I do think that the Boston Celtics know that they have to stop him. And then on the flip side, Peyton Pritchard's going to get more shots without Jason Tatum in the lineup, so he should go over that total. So I would go over on Pritchard, under on Brown. Everyone else, we'll see what happens tonight.
All right, Carlan. Enjoy the game tonight. Maybe we'll be chatting next week about a Monday night game. I don't know. We will see. Yeah. Thanks again for coming on.
Game
really
7.
appreciate it.
Let's get it. Have a good one.
Yeah. Come on. Who doesn't want Game 7? I mean, I understand the Knicks fans don't. Yeah, there we go. But the rest of us like prefer to have that Game 7. And I prefer, by the way, 3:30 Sunday for Oklahoma City. Well, no 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
I know. People with kids, they don't think about us all the time, do they?
My son has a game Sunday afternoon. Like I'm gonna miss this game. Anyway, thanks, Carlan. Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Have a good one.
Knows how to show love to our everyday heroes. So if you're a first responder, you are in for some perks. Lots of hotels and casino offer big discounts to any first responders who can show valid work or volunteer ID. So treat yourself to a discounted stay. You deserve it. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Derek Carr has called it a career after 11 NFL seasons.
I think they knew before the draft that they had to make a move at this point. And by the way, Derek Carr did have a pretty good career, made as many Pro Bowls as Eli Manning. So based on that, he should go to the Hall of Fame like Eli Manning. Well, Eli Manning does have a couple rings at that point, but always wanted to take a shot at Manning, who should not actually be in the Hall of Fame. Shouldn't be questioned, an under 500 quarterback for his career. Stop the Manning.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid. The game is on. The stakes are high, but the action isn't just on the field.
He's rearranging that roof. Get it inside!
SportsGrid's in-game live. Your ultimate second screen experience.
A little flyer, couple 15.5 point live line.
Every prop, every play, every day.
Anything can happen. It's complete chaos.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Welcome back. Our SportsGrid insider Adam Caplan is with us. We got kind of a non-sports betting side story yesterday that we thought we would ask him about this book, American Kings, a biography of the quarterback. Adam, I think a lot of folks are not going to be caught up on this at all, to be honest with you. They're just staring at us on the screen going, what are they talking about here? So a little background I'll give, and then you could take it from here. Is this book that's out that basically expose some stories amongst the National Football League, one of which was the backstory to the Caleb Williams initial era in Chicago with head coach Matt Eberflus. Also, the idea that maybe Williams didn't want to initially be drafted by Chicago, looking for ways out, like the UFL. So I'll stop there, let you take it from there. And also would definitely love your opinion as to whether or not this will affect his, how do I say this, his popularity rating in Chicago moving forward.
So, yeah, Matty Eberflus, the former Bears head coach, was responsible, really. The head coach, Craig, when you look at it, is always responsible for the roster. He doesn't pick the players, but he's got to coach them. And the word I was given, or the wording or the phrasing was that Caleb Williams needed hard coaching. Okay, he needed to be coached with discipline. He needed to know what was right and what was wrong in terms of the way he needed to play the game, and he just didn't get that last season. So let's also go to the point, and this is by the way from Seth Wickersham's book, and Caleb Williams is featured in it, and it's Dad Carl who he speaks with, and it's just so funny that we bring the story up because I remember talking to agents who were recruiting him, and one said that his dad, Carl, called his son the king, which I thought was funny. That's fine. I mean, he wound up being the first pick overall, which was expected. So it was not an easy recruitment trying to sign the player. But to move this along here, what the Williamses wanted to do, or at least the inference was that leading up to that draft, and you could see the quote that's out there, as the Bears are where quarterbacks are drafted to die. Why? Because they really haven't, if you really want to look at it, they've not gotten it right with their franchise quarterbacks really since Jim McMahon. They really have not gotten it right. And the hope is internally, they believe it is, that Caleb Williams will be that guy. So what happened was, and his father talks about it, they were looking ways of not getting drafted by Chicago. And I guess Caleb told Wickersham, it's quoted in there, that they wanted him to go to Minnesota, but because of Kevin O'Connell and the job that he's done developing quarterbacks. But honestly, you can't circumvent the draft. It's collectively bargained. You can't do anything about that. You could tell the club, like going back to John Elway in 1982, hey, if you draft me, I'm not going there. And Ernie Accorsi, the GM of the Colts, didn't want to trade him. And Robert Irsay, the then owner, was the one who really traded him. We saw this happen with Eli Manning. Eli Manning said, I'm not playing for the Chargers. So, as we know, the Giants, speaking of Ernie Accorsi, it's kind of ironic how it happens. He's the one who drafted him. He's the one who got him to the Giants. So that's all he could really do. Look, he could say, listen, you could draft me, but I'm going to play in the USFL. You can do that. Like, you can play in another league, but you can't circumvent the draft. That's not happening. But the bottom line is, as we move forward here, Craig, when you look at the situation with the Bears, Ben Johnson, a big reason why he got that job. It's not the only reason. But the big reason was that he redeveloped Jared Goff with the Lions. He did a phenomenal job. And I could tell you as a fact, for talking to people who work with Ben Johnson, he coaches hard. He gets on his quarterbacks in terms of footwork and the way you need to play the game. So we're going to probably learn very early, Craig, in their relationship if it's working or not.
Am I crazy, or did Bo Jackson circumvent the draft?
Well, okay, we're going back to the mid 80s here. So as you know, he wanted to play baseball first instead of
right. But didn't he get drafted by Tampa Bay and then left?
Playing baseball. He went to
play for the Royals, and he came back and went to the Raiders.
Right, he went to the Raiders. Right now, Davis was smart enough to draft him. They held his draft rights. So yeah, that was a really smart move. Then unfortunately, he broke his hip. That ended his football career. And as you know, he played for the Royals and the White Sox. But the bottom line is, when you look at Caleb Williams getting back to the Bears here, it's going to be super fun to see what happens here, because Ben Johnson is an absolute superstar. I've talked to guys who work with him. He coaches really hard. And Caleb Williams is going to have to be receptive to coaching. That we're going to see how that works out this season.
Yeah, no, it is interesting, because I think, part of it, and you brought it up, is the bigger topic of, now that that's sort of out there, that they were trying to find ways to circumvent. I wonder if we see that attempt even happen in the future. I know you can't now. The rules are probably different now than they were when Bo Jackson was there, because it really doesn't make sense that he got drafted by Tampa and then the Raiders the next year. And he ended up playing for the Raiders. So, or 2 years later. But either way, it's definitely interesting to see how he'll be received in Chicago. Great to have you back here. Thanks again.
Thanks, man.
All right, we'll be right back.
still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding it's a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Pawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and you know that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. Some good sports betting news. That's what we needed, and we got Sam McQuillan to deliver some of that today here. He's back from a conference in South Florida to break everything down for us that he learned at the conference and a whole lot more. But Sam, before we get to that, we found out some good news from Missouri. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when you think about it, every single thing that has been launched in the sports betting universe has been launched around something. It's been the NFL, college football, March Madness. So I did find it a little odd that the state of Missouri announced that sports betting will launch on December the 1st. I'm not really sure how they landed on that date. According to the quote that I read, it was just basically that's the soonest that they could get it going. So I'll need a little bit more on that.
Yeah, exactly, Craig. Whenever you look at the sports calendar, you can always pick different events. I mean, if you want to make the case for December 1st, it's right around the NFL playoffs, so there'll be a lot of action around then. But yeah, most states want to get sports betting usually launched either before March Madness, right before the Super Bowl, or the start of football season. For Missouri, when they legalized sports betting at the ballot a few years ago, there was this clause that was good that they put in there where they had to have it no later than December 1st. Originally, they wanted to have it earlier. It actually was supposed to potentially go live in May, which would have been, good because it's, a lot of sports going on now. And then it's definitely ahead of football season. As always with this stuff, it's the bureaucratic process, which delays it. The Gaming Commission has yet to actually go through all the paperwork and all the procedures they need to do, where they open up the license process, they do background checks on companies, they then review their applications, they decide, whether everything's going to work or not, all that stuff. There was actually one senator who had been a big thorn in the side of people trying to get sports betting legalized in Missouri, named Denny Hoskins, which I think we've talked about on this show several times.
Oh, yeah.
Lo and behold, he was actually the one that got the date delayed, where he said he didn't think that, this was enough time for the commission to go through all these procedures to get sports betting live and up and running. So that's why we have the December 1st launch. Now the application process has just opened for these companies. So you'll have 2 that can get licenses through the state of Missouri itself, and you'll have about 13 applications ready for brands that want to partner with any of the state's riverboat casinos. And then the state sports teams as well will be able to have licenses. So you could have more than 20 sports books. So it's good for the market, good for the bettors themselves. I just came from Florida, where you are, where there's only one sports book in town, and everyone knows how frustrating that is. So even though there is a delay, it's going to be a good market. It'd only be about a 10% tax rate, at least right now. You never know; those things could always get changed, as we're seeing. So you're gonna have to wait a little bit if you're in Missouri. But the good news is you do have a launch date. And it is before some, big NFL games, some big playoffs. So I imagine the appetite will only be ramping up more and more, especially throughout the football season. But yeah, you got the December 1st start date if everything goes smoothly. So now we're just going to be watching and monitoring to see which companies are trying to get in and how the process goes for them.
All right. Well, I look forward to that launch in Missouri later this year. All right. Meanwhile, FanDuel reveals a new feature that is based around responsible gaming and deposits, meaning that they're allowing real-time deposits and alerts. And how does this affect the industry, Sam?
Yeah, really cool from FanDuel debuting this new responsible gaming tool. When you talk about responsible gaming, you don't want it to be something that you only talk about when you have a problem or when you notice somebody have a problem, but these companies have been very vocal about embedding it into the experience, the way that everyone bets. So FanDuel just debuted this tool, real-time check-in. If you make a deposit that is inconsistent with your pattern of previous deposits, with your behavioral history, then they're going to alert you and say, hey, this deposit was 5 times what you normally bet. Maybe you'd normally deposit $20 with us. Now you deposited $200. Did you mean to do that? Are you sure? Right. So there's this sort of real-time process that embeds it into the betting experience, not where you have to go look at these tools later on to see how you're doing. Because everyone knows it's good to have these tools, but how you actually use them is a big part of it. I don't think a ton of people are going on the back end and, hey, look, this is how I'm doing. When you have it right up there in your face, that's a thing they're very bullish on, helping the overall experience. These companies have talked about for a long time being able to leverage the technology that's grown, and because of the sports betting boom, because of the demand, the competition. Some of these companies collect over 186 individual user data points where they are monitoring how you bet, how to market bets to you, how to best leverage you. So this is a great example of seeing maybe how that technology is now being used to actually help people and make our overall betting experience safer, more responsible. It's the first kind of tool of its kind in the US. They did benefit from FanDuel being owned by Flutter, which owns Sportsbet in Australia. They have that same tool there. So this is one of the first examples we're seeing of responsible gaming tools across the world now coming over into the US, where it's a much younger market. And I'd love to see more of this in the future. Really excited to see how adoption goes with this tool and how it impacts people's betting and the way we think about responsible gaming in general.
Yeah, and I would say along those lines, it kind of is a good segue to our next story, which is this lawsuit that's going on in Maryland, where the state is suing sports betting operators FanDuel and DraftKings, basically intimating that some semi promises were being made regarding bonuses and maybe I'm not even sure really how far they're trying to go with this, but they're moving this, I guess, in terms of venue. To me, Sam, to break it down a little bit further, this is a little bit of a landmark case here in the United States, because if the state of Maryland wins and it says that FanDuel and DraftKings are not operating correctly and enticing people to bet on sports, then these companies are going to have to change the way that they promote their ads.
Definitely a really fascinating case. We've seen rules around the way you can promote ads and bonus bets, which are the target of this lawsuit in Baltimore. We've seen those change drastically. The sportsbooks can no longer say risk-free or free bet. The language they've had to do that has changed a lot. And Baltimore here is suing DraftKings and FanDuel, alleging that their practices are not only dishonest, alleging that the bonus bets and promos they give exploit the most vulnerable at-risk residents and violate the city's consumer protection laws. So it moved now from local court in Baltimore to federal court, which comes because FanDuel and DraftKings filed this thing called a notice for removal, which basically means when you're suing two companies that don't exist in the state of Maryland, they're not headquartered there, and it's more than $75,000 at stake, it's quite a lot more, you can then move it to federal court. So it'll be in the U.S. District Court for Maryland, where you'll now have a federal judge residing over this. You'll have a federal jury. So could be beneficial for DraftKings trying to, avoid like a local hometown ruling with the jury there. But they haven't actually responded to the lawsuit yet. Their response is due in July, where they'll make the case of why it should be dismissed. Now, they've gone on record and talked about, the companies that actually facilitate these bets, our partners, aren't even named in the suit. So they're going to really be trying to get this thrown out and dismissed. If that doesn't happen, if we get past that July date, if we get past the August date where the company's responses is due, then we'll really, really be watching this. And yeah, like you said, if they win this case, it could have monumental impact on the rest of the country and just kind of the way we get bonus bets, the way we talk about promotions, and certainly for companies like DraftKings and FanDuel, which, whether right or wrong, they're the top dogs in the space. They're the only targets of this lawsuit, not the other competitors. So again, a really interesting lawsuit from Baltimore. We'll be watching to see how this develops and waiting for the response from DraftKings and FanDuel. But now in federal court, no longer in district court, which is sort of a small win for the companies being sued so far. But we'll have to see what happens.
All right, Sam, enjoy the NBA game tonight. I know you'll be locked in on that, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks a lot, Craig. You too.
Knicks and Celtics tonight. Let's show you the latest updated odds on that game, by the way. They'll play this one at Madison Square Garden, as the New York Knicks are 2.5-point favorites tonight going into this Game 6 event. If the Knicks win, then they close it out, and they'll play the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. If they lose, they'll play a Game 7. And I thought they would have played this game Sunday, but I guess Carlan said the game is Monday. Why? I don't know. I mean, the NBA is strange schedule here this weekend. I don't know. 3:30 Eastern for Thunder and Nuggets, and then Monday night for maybe because the PGA Championship, they don't want to compete with that. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I can't come up with anything else. Maybe they don't want to go against Ohtani playing it. Danny Burke will join us next and break some baseball down.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching!
Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
It is rivalry week in Major League Baseball all across the country. Some really good matchups, too. That would include the Yankees and Mets, Braves and Red Sox. Not sure that's a rivalry, but it's a good matchup. And then, of course, we got the Cardinals and Royals, Subway Series, Bridge Series, Bay Area Series, Angels and Giants. Going to be fun, although the A's are not exactly in the Bay Area anymore. That's a story for another day. Let's bring in Danny Burke. He's got some opinions on some of the games tonight. Danny, let's get started here. We got the Mets and Yankees tonight in the Bronx. Shocked that we would start off here. Minus 134 are the Yankees with Carlos Rodon and Tyler McGill, two pitchers having really nice seasons. The total is 9 tonight. Did you have any opinion on this matchup?
Yeah, this is obviously going to be one of the more thrilling games to watch just based on the fact that it is the Mets and Yankees, but in particular, as you alluded to, just how great this pitching matchup may be with McGill versus Rodon. And with McGill, again, his numbers are really looking outstanding across the board. What is a little concerning is the fact that his BABIP is over 300, but just slightly, nothing to, raise too many flags about. But his hard hit rate is about 44%. So when these players are making contact, then, seldom is that happening on a quality basis. But when it does, that's when they're really making an impact. So I do give a slight lean to the Yankees offense in this particular outing here because Rodon's been outstanding. His BABIP is around 200. And, obviously we know him as a premier strikeout pitcher. And I just like the Yankees as a little bit better group in general. So again, I gravitate toward the Bronx Bombers, but that price over 130 is not tempting. I don't think there's really an edge based on those odds with the Yankees. So I lean that way, but from a pure price standpoint, nothing worth playing. I would certainly gravitate toward the total going under. The wind's blowing in a little bit. I know that Yankee Stadium is still, a hitter's paradise there. But if you don't trust the bullpens or don't want the offenses to go too long, perhaps look at a first 5 total going under.
Okay, so are you big on the revenge theory here? I know it works a lot in the NFL. Does it work in baseball for you with Juan Soto returning back to playing in the Bronx after everything that was said? He is plus 350 to homer tonight. Lindor is plus 320. Judge is about 2-1. Trent Grisham, I don't know how we landed on him. He's plus 330 tonight as well.
I am to a certain extent, Craig. I think certainly it's a little bit more difficult to buy into that from the hitter's perspective as opposed to if you're looking for a starting pitcher. That's probably the angle that I would more so want to pursue. And even with this Juan Soto approach, look, not to say that I'm directly fading him, but, in general, you're not getting the best odds on a top hitter like him for someone like Soto to go yard at about that plus 330 or wherever it was around their range. But especially when these books are factoring in that everybody's looking to pursue that revenge angle, you're even getting worse odds than you probably should. So I will not be delving into that realm today. Again, not to say that he won't have a great series. It's just something that I'm not as high in as I am with other players or other sports.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Always if you don't have an opinion, don't give me one. Totally okay here on the show. All right. Braves are finally playing like the Braves should. So it should not be a surprise at this point that the Braves are not going to be getting plus 150 anymore this season, Danny. I don't see that. Red Sox are minus 120 tonight, more or less a pick'em game. The story, of course, here is also the pitchers with Chris Sale and Garrett Crochet. I mean, I certainly could make the case that Sale may be the overall better pitcher with a chance to go deeper into the game, but both of them have odds at 17.5 outs recorded. So maybe this will be that pitcher's duel that we're looking at here.
Yeah, without a doubt. This game's going to be a blast as well. And it's kind of funny. I mean, I'm going against what I literally just said, that if I were to do like a revenge angle, I would more so go into the pitchers. But Sale's seen his former team, the Red Sox, before, so it's a tad bit different. I do like the Red Sox in this spot, and famous last words based on what we've been seeing from them this season and a little bit as of late, too. I mean, they're coming off a sweep at Detroit, day off in between. So you got to think they're coming in with a little extra chip on their shoulder to get a bounce back. And with Crochet on the bump, it's a perfect pitcher to do so. I mean, he has been amazing this year, as we've seen from him in the past, but he's carried that over now with the Red Sox. And I love Chris Sale, and I especially love him because he won me the Cy Young ticket that I placed on him last year. Don't get me wrong. Like you said, the case can absolutely be made that he's the better pitcher. But you see a slight few concerns here or there. His barrel rate's at about 9%. You're getting his ERA near 4, even though his underlying metrics are a little bit lower, but his BABIP's at 392. And again, to reiterate, like, it is still early and Sale will probably get into form, but this is an aging pitcher. They're going against kind of a desperate Red Sox team here who may have the better pitcher right at this moment. And the Red Sox offense, though they are very volatile and infuriating, they have been pretty strong against Southpaw. So I'll take a pretty cheap price here with the Red Sox. I know the market's moving against me, but I'm actually going to buy low on Boston here, Craig.
All right, fair enough. Now, Cardinals have been a shock to the system, so to speak. I mean, it looked like they to lose 100 games and be okay with it. And then all of a sudden they roll off 9 wins in a row. I feel like they're going against what they want to do here, honestly, this season. So now they got to fight. And tonight it's against the Royals. And, certainly the better pitchers on the side of the Royals tonight. There's no question about that with Cole Reagan's pitching. Minus 162 is the money line. If you take the Cardinals being hot, you get plus 136. Total 8.5 in this showdown this evening, Danny. Any position here?
Yeah, so I'm with you. I mean, this Cardinals team just really doesn't make any sense. And it seems like the few times I've placed a bet on them or against them, I'm on the wrong side. So beware for anybody listening out there. But I do like Kansas City, and I was able to find about minus $137. So make sure you shop around if you're siding with me and looking at KC. I mean, like you said, Reagan's is clearly the better pitcher in this matchup, and the Royals have been a middling, kind of frustrating team as well. But this is a good bounce back spot for them with their ace taking the bump. Piante on the other side. I mean, again, he's got a 20% home run to fly ball ratio. He's walking over 3 batters per 9 innings, and his strikeouts per 9 innings is sub 6. So if Kansas City can inflict damage early offensively and they're not digging that hole like we've seen often, with the better pitcher on the bump, they should be able to control the atmosphere of this spot for all 9 innings.
All right, finally, what am I missing here? It feels like maybe I'm on the side of the dog here tonight, Danny, between the A's and Giants. This kid, JP Sears, has been really good for them. I know they're coming off a brutal loss last night, and I know Logan Webb is the better pitcher too, but I mean, if they get to the 5th inning tied, I think it's anybody's game. Should be a close one for me.
Completely agree with you, Craig. I mean, again, if you're just looking at it without the odds being infused here, you're going, yeah, no, I get it. I would probably think that Logan Webb and the Giants have a slight advantage. But no, I mean, JP Sears has been right there. And based on this price they're giving you, it's incredible. And the A's have been better against righties than the Giants have against lefties. So I'd be with you. It's the dog or nothing.
Plus 140. Thanks again. Appreciate it, Danny. Have a great weekend.
You bet.
Still underdogs at home, on the road, and all of these games. It's time for people to start understanding a legitimate team that has a chance not only to win the series against Cleveland, but also maybe even go all the way to the NBA Finals.
I think a lot of the focus has been on why the Cavs have not played particularly well. A lot of that is due to injury, of course, but I think that's taking too much credit away from what the Pacers have done.
NewsWire. Only on SportsGrid.
Malaysia Fawali, who you guys know I am a huge fan, has decided to switch allegiances and stay in league. And now she's going to go play for Kim Mulkey. Her, Flau'jae Johnson in the backcourt. It's going to be interesting to watch. You wonder sometimes with roster construction, maybe too much is not too good.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
Jason Tatum underwent surgery to repair a torn right Achilles tendon. That is obviously a season-ending injury, and that's long rehab. You're talking
That's a year.
That's a year.
I don't wish that on anybody. I don't. I hate that Achilles, knees and ankles. I don't like talking about them. I've said it a million times. But screw the Celtics.
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back to NewsWire here on SportsGrid. It is rivalry weekend in Major League Baseball. We'll get to one of those matchups that begins tonight. Also, an update on the PGA Championship, although of the slower kind. And also, the Cleveland Cavaliers season goes out with a whimper, but not after their owner spent a lot of money on a snow machine. Yes, this is true. It's time now for some last licks. Okay, so they're doing this rivalry series this weekend. Not sure how this is one of them, but it's, trying to be a little, fabricated here, make something out of nothing could be. I mean, the Padres and Mariners, don't really scream rivalry per se in baseball. I mean, they are in different leagues, and if they play each other, it's only going to be every once in a while. So one of the greatest, rock and roll singers, honestly, of all time, the lead singer of Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder, came up with this idea to basically call the Vedder Cup the prize from whoever wins this weekend. And he, I guess because he lived, of course, in Seattle, everybody knows that, right? But also lived in San Diego as well, the trophy was designed by Eddie Vedder himself. So each year, the winner of the annual series will get to keep the Vedder Cup trophy, and they will house it in their clubhouse, and we'll see what ends up happening. Maybe this is a thing. Maybe this is a way that you can start a rivalry between two teams. We see this happen. There's a lot of awards up usually in college football for matchups like this at the end of the year. Not so much for baseball, and we do have some very critical rivalry series this weekend. Definitely St. Louis and Kansas City, and the two New York teams playing as well. I'll be covering the Marlins and Rays and be on the broadcast for the Citrus series. So this should be fun. Maybe this is a good idea that ends up working. Good job by Eddie Vedder getting this done. Okay, bad job, unfortunately, by Dan Gilbert. He is the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And by the way, Dan Gilbert has not been in the news a lot. Remember when he used to be in the news like every day regarding LeBron James, and then supposedly got LeBron to come back to Cleveland and win the championship? So Dan Gilbert thought it would be a good idea to start a celebration early. And he ended up purchasing this fake snowmobile, which was centered around celebrations, as in when the Cavs win a playoff series, they celebrate by blowing this fake snow throughout the arena. It cost over $500,000, and they only got to use it once. And honestly, not the best look here for Cleveland, because when you think about it, they didn't win a series at home in the playoffs at all. Now, they won games, of course, during the regular season, and they did beat the Miami Heat in 4 games, but then they ended up losing in the next round. So for Dan Gilbert in Cleveland, $500,000 maybe doesn't get as far as what you thought. I like the idea, but no execution whatsoever. And now we learned that he did it. All right, finally, at the PGA Championship this week, they got a problem at Quail Hollow. There's been some delays on the greens. And the reason for these delays, I guess, are the turtles. Yes, this is true. Not just in Florida, but in North Carolina as well. This time of the year, it is, getting to be, close to summertime here. We're out of the spring into the summer. And turtles are slowing down the play of players. They're having to wait for them to cross greens. They don't want to get in the way, etc. Now, here in Florida, we have more of these iguana delays and alligator delays. Not as many turtles. There are some, don't get me wrong. I've seen them on the course. But this is a kind of a funny story. And by the way, the officials, I guess, were asked about this, and they were like, yeah, there's nothing we can do. This is just going to happen all weekend. And by the way, the delays are quick, okay? Like, turtles don't move fast. We know that. But the delays are like, a minute or two. They're not like 5-10 minutes with some of these golfers that take forever to hit shots. PGA Championship action continuing right now. Vegas, the player from Venezuela, still leading, by the way. 12 o'clock Eastern on a Friday at the PGA Championship. That is a very big story. We'll have to follow it this weekend. You know who will be following it? It'll be Smiley Kaufman. He's coming up next at 12 o'clock Eastern. He's got the latest on everything going on in golf. That's followed by Pharrell Coast to Coast at 3, and he's got you till 6 o'clock. And I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of discussion about tonight's game between the New York Knicks and Boston Celtics. Then at 6 o'clock Eastern, it is time for Front Office Sports. It's our brand new show, which we debuted a couple of weeks ago. That's 6 to 6:30. Followed by Game Time Decisions at 6:30 till 8. And then tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern till 10, you've got In-Game Live Game Day recapping all the action in the NBA. And by the way, a chance for the Florida Panthers, defending champs, to close out the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. And that will be, I'm sure, one of the subjects that Gabe will have tonight as well on Sports Rage. Also, thanks to our guests today, Danny Burke and Carlan Gay and Adam Caplan, for coming on and talking some sports with us. And for my director, Luke, and my producer, Frank, I'm Craig Mish. I hope you enjoy your weekend. If fantasy baseball is your thing, see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern for Fantasy Sports Today. If not, see you back here for our next edition of NewsWire on Monday.